In the late 80s and early 90s, the music world was dominated by the sounds of pop, rock, and an emerging genre known as hip-hop. While East Coast rap had already claimed a spot at the top of the charts with acts like Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, and other artists, the West Coast emerged with NWA as the dominant force in rap. But that was just the beginning. The Death Row era was on the rise, a label that would not only change the course of hip-hop but redefine the cultural landscape of America. What initially started as a $1.5 million investment as a branch of GF Entertainment, Death Row exploded in a short time, completely eclipsing any expectations and rising to the top, becoming worth more than $600 million in today's money. This is the story of the iconic West Coast record label, Death Row Records.
Yo, don't sleep on the soundtrack. Murder Was the Case. Out now on Death Row Records. Journey with me into the mind of a maniac.
Snoop, did you find yourself after the trial, like in the studio, trying to get some stuff done? Or?
You know what? My people from Death Row, they took me out of town, you know what I'm saying? To release my mind. That's something I really needed, you know what I'm saying? I had
you did release your mind.
I went to the water, I was in the sky, me and Tupac was like 30 feet in the air.
All right, still hanging out at the after party, and with me from Death Row.
I'm Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur.
All right. What is exactly happening, and what can we expect from it?
You believe in God?
Certainly.
Believe in Death Row East. Believe in that, for real.
That's it right there.
But if you believe in God, believe in Death Row East. We plan to take the same strategy we use with Death Row West, which is mind over matter, taking all our weaknesses and making it into our strengths.
It all started around 1991 when Dr. Dre was displeased with his situation at Ruthless Records owned by Eazy-E. Suge Knight heard of those rumors, offered his help, and muscled in on Dre's contract with Ruthless Records. Shortly after, Suge Dre and the DOC struck a deal with Dick Griffey to sell them a recording studio and also found a guy to finance the deal.
I was not a drug dealer. I was a person who decided to sell drugs. A young man by the name of Eric had told me about Suge's background and that Suge was aware of my background and that he was somewhat intrigued behind my past and he had wanted to hook up with me in some form or fashion.
David Kenner was a longtime Los Angeles criminal attorney. By the late 80s, he had become part of a fraternity of top-flight attorneys that handled a lot of federal cases, a lot of big drug cases downtown. In the course of his legal work, he became Michael Harris's attorney. I think if you look at clients of his over time, David has a habit of getting very close to his clients and getting very involved in his clients' lives, perhaps more so than would be wise for a lawyer. He became someone who was a confidant, a friend of Michael Harris's, and also involved in business with Michael Harris. David Kenner brought Suge Knight to see Michael at a Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles.
When I asked the question to Suge, what does it actually take? He told me that we could be 50-50 partners for about $1.5 million.
They set down their basic business plan that they would start a company called Godfather Entertainment, and one division of it would be Death Row Records.
What I suggested to David and Suge is that I do not include my name in the corporation and that these guys could go ahead and do the actual upfront managing and representing of the company. Kenner started off as my guy, watching my back, supposedly.
In the summer of 1991, Kenner started coming around. There was a lot of buzz about this company, a lot of expectations that it could be a successful company.
Suge, he was aggressive, and he really seemed like a go-getter to me, you know what I'm saying? And he was making things happen. That's all I really care about, was getting in the studio making music.
The market we're going after, we're mainly for the people. I mean, for us, the West Coast, there's a lot of talent around that guys really don't have the opportunity to have a chance to prove themselves. So far as GF Entertainment goes, with the studio and the films, we're giving all the youngsters an opportunity from all the neighborhoods where basically we haven't forgot where we came from.
GF Entertainment is a multimedia company. We have Death Row Records, we have a movie production unit, concerts, we're going to be doing pay-per-view concerts and all kinds of exciting things. The label started with Dr. Dre, who was going to do his own thing, and with a lot of help from Suge Knight and Harry O and a number of people, and we got it all together.
In a very short time, Suge Knight put the pieces together to make possible the birth of Death Row Records. The label's first major success came with Dr. Dre's debut album, The Chronic, in 1992. The Chronic became a cultural phenomenon, selling millions of copies and establishing Death Row as a powerhouse in the music industry. A year later, Snoop Dogg's debut album Doggy Style in 1993 followed. Doggy Style broke records as the first debut album to enter the Billboard 200 at number 1, solidifying Death Row's dominance in the music industry. However, the success was followed by many controversies surrounding the record label. Remember Suge Knight 2 years prior looking for an investor in his record label and getting Harry O to invest $1.5 million? Well, now that record label earned over $150 million in just 2 years, Suge Knight had a reputation, and now he has a reputation combined with money and power. He cut ties with Harry O, took full control over the label, and began to employ more and more people from his hood, the Mob Piru Blood Gang members, which made the work environment hostile since there were both Blood and Crip Gang members at the same time at the record label. Suge wanted to enforce his authority, blend the gang culture with the music, and give opportunity at the same time by employing Blood Gang members. Ultimately, this was his worst mistake in retrospective, as this potent combination of gang-related politics led to all other problems which caused Suge Knight to lose sight what Death Row was in the first place. A business after all, a successful one. Death Row continued to rise, but controversies followed.
They always blame it on Suge what everybody else do. You know what I'm saying? He did it. He always try to avoid everything, keep everything down. This is business. This ain't no gang, none of this.
But here in the Compton neighborhood where Suge grew up, Mob Piru gang members like 32-year-old Heron see Knight as a man who gave his friends and family jobs.
I work. I pay taxes too. You know what I'm saying? That's right. And this is what Suge taught me. Yeah. I ain't never had a job before in my life until I started working for Suge. You know, in and out of jail. You know what I'm saying? Did a little bit of everything. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm a born-again worker.
He's a big guy with a big reputation. A local congresswoman once described him as one of the new young black entrepreneurs. Others describe him as a thug. In any event, the Death Row lifestyle...
The Brumfields are suing, adding their names to a growing list of lawsuits that are critical of Death Row business methods. Among them, David Ruffin, another Death Row rapper who says he was beaten twice by members of the Dog Pound. Ruffin's attorney, Farhad Novian, was ready to go to trial until...
Shortly before the trial date, Mr. Ruffin disappeared, and as a result of his disappearance and his inability to make himself available to the defense for trial purposes, the case was dismissed.
Novian believes his client was bought off on the sly. Cut! Those affiliated with Death Row a bit squeamish about more negative trial publicity. Hey. Meanwhile, Fox News has learned federal racketeering investigators are looking at Death Row with a possible RICO case in mind.
The lawyers are out there sharpening their knives to start helping people get out of their problems if, in fact, this company was given birth by illegal money.
And if, in fact, the feds ever do file and win a racketeering case against Death Row, the government could end up owning a rap label. Meanwhile, Suge Knight and Death Row attorney David Kenner have still not responded to Fox requests for comment on this story.
Right from the very start in the 1950s, many grown-ups equated rock and roll with rampant sex and violence. Today, many people who grew up with rock and roll say the same thing about the rap music their kids are listening to. Only now, it's not just the words and music. Correspondent Richard Threlkeld reports tonight on gangster rappers on the record and on the street.
He's known as Snoop Doggy Dogg, and his new record album, Doggy Style, out today, will likely go right to the top of the charts. To millions of teenagers, most of them white, he's the poet laureate of gangsta rap, the rap style of a ghetto world where everybody's got a gun, women are bitches, and shooting cops is fair game. He's also just been indicted for murder in Los Angeles. Snoop Doggy Dogg, born Calvin Brodus, insists he's innocent and he's free on $1 million bail. Last week, another gangsta rapper and film star, Tupac Shakur, was accused of sexually abusing a woman in a New York hotel. Shakur's also been charged with shooting 2 off-duty cops in Atlanta. Gangster rap has become incredibly popular and profitable by selling lyrics about black-on-black violence to a young mainstream audience that wouldn't dream of going anywhere near a ghetto. Now that some of its stars stand accused of doing what they've been rapping about, life seems to be imitating art, so to speak. And the Reverend Jesse Jackson said today he may target some of the record companies which distribute gangster rap albums.
There's never before has there been such a will to use music, to advertise self-destructive violence.
By 1995, Suge Knight and Deathrow were attacked and demonized from all sides, by media, politics, the law, priests, activists, rivals, and more. But Suge stood tall, ruling with an iron fist, and used the controversies to boost record sales, attract new talent, and grow his own gangster image and authority. However, one crucial event happened in 1995 which took the already media-hyped East versus West rivalry to a whole new level, a personal one. Suge Knight's friend, Jake Robles, was shot and killed in September 1995 outside the Platinum Club in Atlanta, Georgia. Robles was a close associate of Suge Knight and a member of the mob Piru Bloods, which added to the incident's notoriety due to its alleged ties to gang and music industry rivalries. Also at that same party was Sean Puffy Combs, the head of the East Coast hottest label at the time, Bad Boy Records. Suge and Puff had an argument outside the club, and Suge blamed Puff's bodyguard, Wolf, for shooting his friend Jake. And shortly after the incident, Suge Knight infamously said this at the Source Awards.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to thank God. Second of all, I'd like to thank my whole entire Death Row family on both sides, you know what I'm saying? I'd like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up. We ride with him. And one other thing I'd like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
By this time, Deathrow was on top of the rap world. Everybody wanted to be a part of Death Row Records. However, it was still missing the final piece. Enter Tupac Shakur. Finished filming the movie Above the Rim. He stayed in New York to work on music despite ongoing legal troubles and a trial verdict awaiting him. On the night of November 30th, he was invited to Quad Studios in Manhattan to record a feature for rapper Little Sean. The invitation came through associates, including Jimmy Hinchman. Tupac, along with his close friend Stretch and 2 others, entered the lobby of Quad Studios. While they were waiting for the elevator, 3 men armed with guns entered the lobby. They demanded Tupac's jewelry. Pac resisted the robbery and got shot 5 times in the process. He was dragged into the building's elevator by Stretch and others to escape further danger. Then he got to the studio on the 8th floor where he was supposed to record the song. Biggie Smalls, Puffy, and others were present at the studio. Witnesses described Tupac as disoriented and bleeding profusely, yet very alert and even confrontational. He accused those present of setting him up for the shooting. This is the moment that changed the hip-hop history forever, as Tupac, Biggie, and Puffy, once friends, will become mortal enemies from this point on. 2 months after this shooting, Tupac got sentenced to prison on February 7, 1995. His album Me Against the World debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling 240,000 copies in its first week while he was in prison. He served approximately 8 months. By this time, Suge's friend Jake gets fatally shot on September 24, 1995. Days after the shooting, Suge Knight visits Tupac in prison and offers him a deal to post his bail in return for Tupac to record 3 albums on Death Row Records. Tupac, frustrated with his, at the time, label Interscope Records, and eager to get out of prison, accepts the offer. On October 12, 1995, Suge Knight collects the bail money from various sources including Death Row and Interscope money and paid $1.4 million for Tupac's release. They both had beef with Bad Boy Records. Tupac was the perfect ally for Suge Knight, and Suge Knight was the perfect source for Tupac to vent his anger through. As Suge Knight himself said, Pac took Death Row to a whole new level.
They call that Death Row thing. Right. So we know women gonna be there because they know who else gonna be there. I'm saying. I think we the most wanted by the police, most wanted by the women, most wanted by everything, I guess. As long as the sales keep coming straight. Everybody's scared of our shit, so I felt that was the right time to put it out. Scare the motherfuckers some more. That's right. So we keep that shit real on that level. Right. Then right before Christmas, like a week before Christmas, Tupac should be out. Oh, okay, Tupac new album. Yes, and Tupac new album is gonna be a double album. No rapper, damn near, really no R&B, really just put it off. Oh, okay. But you know, he got a lot of talent, he got a lot of, it's his moment, anything he do is good. You know it, you talk to him, you seen him, yeah. He got the shit right. So we're gonna do his double album, which is coming out a week before Christmas. He got a song with Snoop, he got a song with Dre, he got a song with Nate, and but most of all, he got all the shit that he been waiting, waiting to talk about.
I came through the insight and the I would say the talent of Suge Knight, knowing that by me adding my link to Death Row, this chain would be unbreakable, unstoppable, and we would make more money than any black artist in the music business ever made. We would do things that no artist, black, white, Mexican, has ever done. We will set our own mark and enforce it 30 times over, and we set about by doing that. And then we got my album, which my biggest world debut to #1. This new album debut to #1. That's a first for any rapper, for anybody. To excel, to surpass marks, to do what no man has done before us, to make my people proud, to make my family proud, to make me proud, to make black females proud, to make black men proud. People all over the country, all over the world know just what type of people we are and just what type of label Death Row is and just what type of place California is.
Here we go! California, get up! Out on bail, fresh out of jail, California dreaming.
I was like, Dre, I want some beats right now. He's like, I'm working on something right now. He played California a lot, so Dre, you know you owe me this. I'm new on Death Row, fresh out of jail.
When I got Pac out of prison, Pac was the whole package. The guy could rap his ass off, and he was marketable. He was bigger than a rock star.
All eyes on me, all eyes on me.
You gotta realize one thing, Tupac is Death Row. I feel I have more than just a business relationship with him. He the type can be like a brother.
Here's my commercial for Death Row Records. If you come to Death Row, you will see your art brought to a bigger plateau, and you will be paid one of these days. Death Row, come on, let's count with me. Come on, y'all, count with me. This is my homeboys in jail. Come on. These all hundreds, they ain't counterfeit. 2, 3. Next year, Death Row gonna start printing our own money. Because we making so much, we need to start printing our own money. It's gonna be me and Suge on a $100 bill like this. Me, Suge, and Dot Move. It's gonna be in a $100 bill like this. Ready? Yeah. Y'all ready? No. Please, y'all do
Tell me just a little bit about the concept of this video. Is this something that Tupac and Snoop came to you and they said, we want to do this? How?
Yeah, you know, Tupac is real creative. He basically be want to know what he want to do on his own videos. And, you know, Snoop supports him. So, and I support them. So I don't try to make all the decisions. I give them the right to do what they want to do. Pac had an excellent idea. We had some other people give us some treatments that it was real dry. And the song was too powerful for the treatment we had, so I decided to let Pac do it, which is for the best, and it worked out.
Is Pac almost taking a director credit in this, maybe?
He's the director of it. He's
definitely director of it. I think he probably been directing the majority of his videos, but people probably just never gave him the credit. So this time on Death Row, he definitely get his credit.
By this point in time, Death Row Records was on top of the world. However, on the inside, it was a melting pot of violence. Dr. Dre left the label because the gang presence was taking over the label. So gang mentality became the Death Row mentality, and Dre had enough and left. Tupac embraced the gang mentality because he felt he owed Suge his freedom, and Pac was always a loyal person. Snoop was somewhere in the middle, at first riding with Death Row, then taking a neutral stance when he said on Angie Martinez's interview that he had no beef with Bad Boy Records, which eventually led to a falling out between Suge, Pac, and Snoop. The night of September 7th, 1996, when the infamous Tyson vs. Seldon boxing match took place, changed everything.
After the fight, Tupac was still in that mode.
When Tyson get in the ring, he knocked motherfuckers out. Well, that's what Tupac gonna do.
He was still charged up.
Everybody that go to jail come out, they got good luck.
That's very addictive.
Right after the Tyson boxing match, Suge, Tupac, and the rest of Death Row entourage got into a fight with the Southside Crip Orlando Anderson. Hours later, on the way to the 662 Club, they stopped at a red light at East Flamingo Road and Covell Lane. At that moment, a white Cadillac drove by and shot Tupac and Suge and quickly drove off the other way. It's widely believed Orlando Anderson was the shooter. However, there's many theories around this shooting and many suspicious activities in the background of this event. Trayvon Lane said something to Tupac, then Pac just took off and punched Anderson, who seemed like he was planted there waiting at the MGM lobby. For some weird reason, security was told strictly not to carry any weapons. Michael Moorer, who was originally assigned to Tupac, refused not to carry any weapons. Then he was moved to Club 662 to do security. There were people from Death Row telling others not to go to Vegas on that particular night. It all seemed like a plan set up.
MTV News special report. Rapper Tupac Shakur was shot in the chest late Saturday night in Las Vegas. He is in critical condition. The incident happened after Shakur and Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight had left the Tyson-Seldon fight in Vegas and were reportedly on their way to a local nightclub when a white Cadillac pulled up alongside their BMW and opened fire. Shakur was hit multiple times in the chest. Suge Knight received a minor gunshot wound to the head. A hospital spokesperson told MTV News that Suge Knight was expected to be released late Sunday evening. While Tupac is in intensive care, he is expected to survive. As we went to press, no arrests had been made as of yet. This is the second time in less than 2 years that Tupac Shakur has been the victim of a shooting, the last time in November of 1994 in New York City.
Tupac was rushed by ambulance here to University Medical Center to their trauma center, where he was immediately operated on, and then again a few hours later. He's had his right lung removed. He has received platelets. He is intermittently conscious, but for the most part unconscious. Jesse Jackson's been here. Hammer's been here. Family continues to keep vigil.
He has been conscious. He is under a lot of medication, so he's pretty sedated at this time.
Have all of the bullets been removed from him at this point, or do some remain?
As far as I know, they've all been removed.
As for the police, they have 4 bullet fragments and a crime to solve. Until then, Tupac will remain here until he's well enough to leave.
He's Pop, you know? But when we got to the room, this is when I knew that this was serious.
Internally, he has multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. He is not sitting up and he is not talking.
At that point, I wanted to make sure that Kadana was all right, because it was just me and her there. My mom came, and I was relieved.
I didn't think it would be so many people, so that was disconcerting for me. He was in a medically induced coma. He lost a lung when his ring finger was shot off. The first thing...
We're on a constant prayer vigil. We praying that God will spare his life.
Yep, Jesse Jackson, his mama was in the hallway.
He remains in critical condition. I've been told this evening that he is scheduled for some additional surgery, which is not unusual when you have injuries that are this severe.
The doctor put him on dialysis just in case his kidney failed.
Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25.
The reason for all the fear involves the world of this man, the man getting out of the limousine. 6'3", 335-pound Marion Knight, known by the nickname of Suge, short for Sugar. At the age of only 30, and with a lengthy criminal record, including 3 felony convictions, Suge Knight has managed to become one of the most powerful and feared men in the American music industry.
All these allegations are lies.
Lies?
Lies.
What did you see?
Heard shots.
Heard shots?
Yeah.
And then what did you see?
Blood.
If you knew who killed Tupac, would you tell the police?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it's not my job. I don't get paid to solve homicides. I don't get paid to tell on people.
If you knew, you wouldn't tell them?
No.
For the last few weeks, Knight has been running his empire from a cell in the Los Angeles County Jail. Knight now faces the prospect of 9 years in state prison. But even so, the people who have come up against him say they are still afraid of the power of Suge Knight.
The lethal combination of reckless lifestyle, gang ties, violence, legal problems, and treachery from inside of Death Row has led to the collapse of the Death Row empire. Dre left, Tupac tragically died, Suge was sentenced to 9 years in prison, Snoop left in 1998, and by the time Suge served 5 years and got out on parole in 2001, Death Row was fading away. Suge tried to revive his former glory and even had success. However, he simply couldn't stay away from problems in that lifestyle. From his release in 2001 until 2018, he became a shadow of his former self. Nobody feared Suge anymore. He lost his Tyson aura of the music world, and ultimately in 2018 he got sentenced again to 28 years in prison, and Snoop acquired Death Row Records in 2022 as the story comes to full circle. The story of Death Row Records is forever embedded into the history of hip-hop, and a lot can be learned from this period of time. Subscribe for future videos and even better stories.